Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
We want to welcome everyone here today to our second leg of our community collaborative with our brothers and sisters in San Antonio at Masjid Bilal Ibn Rabah. The collaborative was between us, Austin Dawah Center and Masjid Ibn Rabah. And as the second leg, I think today in the Taleem is going to be mercy and leadership in the Qur'an. I must say we did have a tremendous fellowship yesterday in the collaborative dinner in San Antonio. We had some very, very gracious hosts, and the food was absolutely delicious. So our agenda for today will be, we'll have opening remarks from Brother Imam Omar Shakir, followed by a discussion, a conversation on leadership and mercy with Sister Fatimah Ali and Imam Asim Sharif, followed by closing remarks from Brother Imam Abdul Latif. So without further ado, we will bring up our brother, Imam Brother Shakir, Omar Shakir.
Thank you, Brother Ahmed. Beginning with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, we give God the complete and perfect praise. He is our Lord, keeper, sustainer, evolver of all the systems of knowledge. I bear witness that there is no God but God, whose proper and formal name is Allah. And I further witness that Muhammad, to whom the Qur'an was revealed, that he is Allah's slave servant and his messenger. We pray the prayers and the peace be on him and what follows of that salutation. As our brother said, our greeting is peace. We wish God's peace be on you. In Arabic, it's Assalamu alaikum. As also said, my name is Omar Shakir. I'm resident imam of Masjid Bilal Ibn Rabah in San Antonio, Texas. And we are honored and happy to be here in Austin, Texas today for our Collaborative Unity Taleem. Praise be to Allah. And I do want to say this. I'm not going to be long, but I need to say something to remind us and to bring us all in line with what this is all about. Several years ago, prior to COVID-19, which we know was a game changer on so many levels, the Austin community and the San Antonio community did regular collaborative programs. We would alternate between San Antonio and Austin. Our group would travel to Austin, their group would travel to San Antonio, and we put on quality programming dealing with family life and so many other areas. Of course, in the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad radiallahu anhu and our association, it's all about the four birds. That's another conversation. You'll hear more about that in the future. But when we say the four birds, we're talking about those components, those key and fundamental components that are needed in every community to thrive, to prosper. Stay tuned, you'll hear more about that. What I want to say, one of the things that I'm excited about here is that we are not only presenting as those of us that are the older generation, we have a focus on our younger generation. And we plan to engage and get our younger generation more and more involved, which Imam Asim will agree was one of the concerns that we had when we formed the collaboration. We had a couple concerns. Yes, we want to engage our youth, we want to qualify them, train them, if you will, prepare them to take over the leadership, because we're not going to be here forever. And we want them, as Imam Muhammad taught us, we want them to take over while we're still competent. We don't want to be senile and all that. We want to be competent. Why? Because yes, the youth definitely add their piece. They have something to offer, their enthusiasm, their energy, but they lack the experience. And with experience comes wisdom. I didn't say they weren't smart, not wise, but understand, we were young ones. We understand. We make mistakes. So while they're growing and they're maturing and they're making their way, they need guidance from the older generation. There is no generation gap in Al-Islam. Please don't buy into that. We just have to learn better ways to communicate. And I'll say the second thing, and then I'm going to yield. That is, We are very concerned with the legacy and the language of Imam Warithuddin Muhammad radiallahu anhu. May God be pleased with him, grant him the highest station in the paradise. That must be preserved, that gift. Listen to my language, family. It's a gift. Allah gifted the Muslim world, all 2 billion of us, and this association in particular, and also all of humanity with the mind, the insights of Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. It will be beneficial if you study his life and his works. Yes, he served the Muslim community, but he served humanity at large. Matter of fact, one of his nicknames, so to speak, was the spokesman. I think I left a word out, but I know spokesman for human salvation was definitely part of it. I'm emphasizing that because it's not just limited to Muslims. Muhammad the Prophet, upon him be peace, this religion is meant to benefit all mankind. So those are the things you're going to hear much more from us. We have some plans for next month. We have some plans coming up for February. We have some plans coming up for Ramadan, for the collab. That's the nickname, the collab. When you hear that, the collaboration between Austin and San Antonio. So I give it back to, if it's appropriate, our MC today, Brother Ahmed. And I congratulate the Austin community. I congratulate all of you. And I look forward to our presenters today and our message. Peace to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Takbir. Takbir. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
All righty. So we'll transition to our discussion with Imam Asim Sharif and Sister Fatimah. Their topic is going to be mercy and leadership in Quran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So basically what we initially, just giving everybody that when we were having this discussion, we wasn't even sure what setting we were going to be in as we were planning out the topic and the theme. And so we were planning maybe that we may have to do it remotely or via Zoom. So we came up with the panel kind of discussion just in case we were in remote locations, and here we are. So we wanted to keep the same subject matter because we thought that the subject matter was important. And I wanted to just mention a few things on how we came to this particular topic because it speaks to the essence of collab. So one day Sister Fatima and I were talking, and she was talking about showing a desire to get involved and asking what we were doing in the Austin area, and she was seeing how she could plug in. And the first question that I asked her back to this point, because it's about utilizing the talents and abilities of the people, not having them fit into what you're doing, but have what you're doing fit into what they have and what they're interested in. So the first question I asked was, what was her favorite surah? She named a few, but one of them she named was Surah Maryam. And so that's how we got into, okay, well, let's look at this particular surah and see what we think would be some ideas that we could come from this. And so my first question is going to come from that particular conversation, in which I asked her, what is it about Surah Maryam that stands out to you? And what is it about Surah Maryam that you think are significant and important?
Thank you for the question. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I love Surah Maryam. I started reading this surah to learn more about the story of Maryam, Isa's mother, and I fell in love with it. I love the lessons that Allah shares in this surah about His mercy and how to treat others with mercy throughout. I love the stories of the prophets that are in this surah. As I read through, they touched my heart in a very significant way, especially when I was reading this surah during this past Ramadan. This surah has reminded me of Allah's mercy in moments of difficulty. Ayahs from this surah have increased my sense of connectedness to Allah, softened my heart, and I have a very personal connection with this surah. So I'm excited to be talking about it with everyone today.
And so,
Okay.
speaking of mercy, and what we're trying to do in this conversation is, number one, make it conversational, kind of like a podcast. A lot of our young adults, they're used to podcasts, so they're used to seeing people talk in a serious manner, but so we wanted to take that same approach just so we can hold their attention throughout the lecture so they wouldn't feel like it was so much lecture based. So speaking of mercy and trying to find a way to connect that to our current life and make that present in our current life where they can use it. So what is it that you think how can we emphasize mercy as a strength? Because sometimes mercy is perceived to be lacking strength or lacking courage. You're just yielding. So how can we use mercy as a strength in developing our leaders?
Right. I definitely agree with that in our current day culture. Mercy isn't necessarily seen as a strength. It can be seen as a weakness. It can be seen as a flaw in some contexts. But mercy empowers us to be able to connect with others and empower others. In the context of leadership, leadership isn't just authority, right? Anyone can have authority, but leaders inspire others. They collaborate with others to drive efforts towards a shared goal. And the most effective leaders are able to connect with the people that they're working with and help them in their growth and development. Mercy, some of the synonyms of mercy would include compassion, forbearance, humaneness, patience. I wouldn't want to be working under a leader that doesn't have those qualities. So authority without mercy looks like tyranny in my mind. Where you can have authority and tell people what to do, but if you have no compassion for the people who you're leading or who are following you, then that leadership can become oppressive. Mercy is that extra step. It's the humanity that comes into leadership that really helps cultivate a healthy community.
MashaAllah. So, one of the things, and this is just based on what you just said. We had a flow, but you mentioned something here that I think is pivotal. So you talked about mercy empowering others. So what would that look like if it's operating ideally? Mercy empowering others. Because you mentioned that. What would that look like if it's operating ideally?
Ideally. So I'm sure everyone here has been in a high school classroom. You've had different types of high school teachers. I'm sure you had the one teacher who was really difficult, maybe gave you a hard time, told you to go figure it out by reading the textbook. Then you may have had another teacher who invited you to their office hours or after school to come study what you weren't understanding, gave you opportunities to learn and grow in the classroom. Leadership, mercy and leadership empowering others looks like creating an environment where those who are following you or those who you're serving feel like they can come to you to ask questions, to ask for support in pursuing their growth, and to ask about opportunities. It's really creating that safe community space.
So one of the examples I'm seeing you mention is creating an environment where a person feels safe asking questions, showing vulnerability here. I was thinking about, as soon as you said it, I was thinking about how that's probably why we have so many hadiths from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where you can see different people asking him questions on different occasions. So it must show that they were obviously comfortable asking him questions, even in a one-on-one basis, and they didn't fear ridicule or any ostracizing, because you see so many different questions. You even see hadiths from his wives where they asked him a question. So it shows that he actually modeled this particular example, and obviously he was successful to a large degree, because a lot of things that we learn now, because people asked him questions, and they asked him questions that we have now. So alhamdulillah for making that connection. So as we go into the chapter, I think what we looked at is that we would look at ayats 30 through 33 in Surah Maryam, ayats 30 through 33 in Surah Maryam. And so we'll come across ayat 30 first. And so we'll look at that as the first one. So what are your thoughts, first of all, on ayat 30 as it relates to this conversation and what's happening with Isa alayhi salam?
Absolutely. And to set the scene, for those who may be unfamiliar with the surah, right before we reach this ayah in the surah, Maryam has left her city, she's left her hometown, she's given birth to baby Isa or baby Jesus, and she's come back to her town with a newborn in her arms and no husband to be found. And the people in her town are saying, "What is this, Mary? You're a chaste woman. What's going on?" And in this moment, Mary points to the baby Isa, and they say, "How do we speak to a child, a newborn?" And Isa says, in response, "Indeed, I am the servant of Allah. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet." And this is the first thing that Isa is saying as a newborn to this crowd. In the context of leadership and mercy, we know that Prophet Isa is a leader. And in this ayah, in this first act that he's doing, he's showing us, he's showing us what his leadership is like. He's telling us his role as a servant. He's telling us his role as a leader. And he's demonstrating how to serve in this role. In this, can you go back to ayah 50? Yes. So, in ayah, we see Abdullah, the servant of Allah. And when I read Abdullah being a servant of Allah, I also thought of Khalifa being representative of Allah. Because when Allah creates Adam, he tells the angels, "And make him a Khalifa."
Yes.
And a Khalifa is a representative on earth. They're representing Allah, representing his guidance, and they're responsible for caring for Allah's creation. So a Khalifa is also in this servant role. And we know we're all meant to step into the role of Khalifa, but that can be daunting. It's a great responsibility to take on the role of Khalifa. So how do you start? How do you step into taking on responsibility for caring for Allah's creation and representing Allah? We find the answer in this ayah and Jesus' actions and words. Because in this moment, when a crowd of people are questioning his mother's virtue, Jesus' first action as a servant of Allah is an act of kindness. He is speaking up for his mother. He's a mercy for his mother. He's defending her innocence. And he's doing so in such a beautiful way. He's not chastising the crowd or ridiculing them. He's calmly speaking about Allah, calmly speaking about his role, and delivering the truth to the crowd. So in Isa's story here, we're learning about those tenets of leadership and mercy and how, as Muslims, we lead with the intention of serving Allah, we lead with mercy and kindness, we lead with speaking the truth, and we lead even if we're young in our relationship with Islam.
I was looking at, we talked about this, and in this particular ayah, he says, "Qala inni Abdullah." So the first thing is that Allah is the speaker for the audience. Allah is the speaker, and Allah is teaching Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the disposition and the way and the nature of the prophet that actually preceded him, right? And so one of the things I wanted to connect with this, and always just trying to bring it back to how can we apply this in our current environment, in case people, they hear what you're saying, but they just can't connect to their environment. And so one of the things that we mentioned was servant leadership here.
Right.
So could you comment a little bit about servant leadership and how that would be practical for someone at a young young age to exhibit this type of servant leadership, leading with strength but with mercy.
Definitely. So, again, in Isa's story, we're seeing he's speaking confidently, but he's leading with that kindness, mercy, and compassion. As leaders ourselves, we can ask ourselves, how can we model Prophet Isa's actions today? How can we be a kindness and a mercy to others and do so in actions of leadership? That might, in an academic environment or a social environment, that might look like tutoring someone who's struggling in an area that you're good at. If in a social environment, that might look like sticking up for an innocent person that's being bullied, right? At home, that might look like helping out your sister or your brother with whatever challenges they may be having, helping your mom with dinner. It really starts, you can start close to home and really build out from there. At school or at work, a servant leader would ask the question, how can I lead by supporting the growth and well-being of my teammates or my classmates?
Right.
So my brother and my sister both played basketball at different times. And everyone on the team has their own strengths, right? If you're on a sports team and you're really good at a skill, and you have a teammate who's really struggling to maybe pick up that skill, servant leadership would look like staying after practice to help that teammate bridge that gap so that collectively you're stronger as a team.
Excellent. 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 Alhamdulillah. And so, moving on to the next ayat, we have further notes, but I know for the sake of time. So, in ayat 31, this is where most of our dialogue comes from. So, rather than my comments, we'll start with just you and just start with. So, as we look at this, and we've had several different conversations, but as we're talking today, knowing what's going on, going on all these different things. So, what are your thoughts on ayat 31, and how can we apply the lessons here?
Sure. So, ayat 31, this is Isa continuing the statement. He says, and he's made me blessed wherever I am, and he's enjoined upon me prayer and zakat as long as I remain alive. So, the word used for the beginning of the statement, it's وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا.
Yes.
And وَجَعَلَنِي, the root word is ja'ala, and that the meaning of that root word is to place, to put, to establish, attribute. The root word of mubarakan is baraka, and for the word itself, mubarak, that mubarakan comes from, just to learn more about that word, it signifies the continuance, the forever continuance of the blessings which a thing possesses, and from which a sense of goodness flows. So when you use this word, it's implying a sense of firmness in those blessings, of constancy, continuity, steadiness. It's giving this idea that there's an abundance of good, and that in receiving this good, you're also exalted in receiving that good. So in this statement where Isa's saying, and he's made me blessed wherever I am, or he's made me blessed wherever I go, we're learning that if we're seeing ourselves in Isa as well, we learn that Allah has created us blessed. He's established us in a blessed station as his servants.
Yes.
He's attributing blessings with us, and he sees us all as his blessed one. So, in the context of this ayah, Isa says that he serves Allah and that he's made blessed wherever he is. So whenever we choose to serve Allah, we are eternally blessed, and when we navigate life pleasing Allah, we're eternally a blessing to others.
And so, two things. Just highlighting some of the things you mentioned, but I want to first go into the next part where he says, be salati. So he mentions this word salat. And it's interesting because we see that translated as prayer, but we know that we have salat as we make salat. And he's tying this to this blessing that he has now become because of what Allah has deposited in him. So, would you agree then what Allah is also showing us here by the demonstration of Isa alayhi salam and what his legacy came to be and what Prophet Muhammad's legacy came to be? Would you say then Allah is telling us that good leadership is a blessing? Yeah. So Allah is saying here that good leadership is a blessing. And you already demonstrated that a way that we can do that is in the home, in the public place. So this leadership is not something that's one-dimensional. It's something that goes with us wherever we go. And then you mentioned this term here. That's why we say Eid Mubarak, right? It means it's not just a blessing that you get one time. It's a blessing that you're wishing someone gets over and over and over and over again, right? So if you look at how Allah, the author of the scriptures, is tying in this wonderful concept of leadership and blessing, right? He just doesn't just mention leadership. He mentions this word that comes over and over and over again. And so one of the things that we should do, what we're trying to do now, what Imam Omar mentioned in his opening remarks about this transferring the leadership to the next generation, but it's not us. What we're really doing is giving the message to them, right? And if they take the message, just like those great leaders before us have taken the message, just like Imam Muhammad Rahimullah has taken the message and demonstrated a relationship, then not only is leadership a blessing, one of the blessings of leadership we probably would say is a good future. Yeah. One of the blessings of good leadership is a good future, a good family, a good community, a good society, a good government, which is kind of what we're going on, where we're going on right now. People are challenging that good leadership right now in the world today. So, excellent comments there. I wanted to mention this now. So, in this salah, do you have any more comments about the fact that here is Jesus speaking as a baby? And I'm saying that for the audience, right? We know that his name is Isa, but for the audience to recognize that, here is Allah pointing to this leader speaking as a baby, which is connecting us to our natural life, which means that leadership is actually something that is natural in every person. Allah deposited the potential for leadership in every person. And Jesus, speaking as a baby, is speaking to the natural human nature that Allah created in everyone. But now this natural human nature is saying that it's natural to connect to God. So what would you say to that in terms of, because a lot of times as young adults, we struggle with prayer, no matter what faith, right? We pray when we think we need to pray when we need something, right? But in our religion, Allah is teaching us that this relationship should be a constant connection. So what can you say to some of our people, not just young adults, that are struggling with being consistent with connecting with Allah? And I always will say Allah, but I'm just saying they're struggling with connecting with God on a consistent basis, because here God is saying that's our best help.
Sure. Please be. And can you move forward one slide? Can you move forward one more slide? It's a little bit later in the presentation, but that one. So prayer, when I think of prayer as being like the world's greatest wireless connection. We always have the opportunity to connect to Allah wherever we are. And I know that sometimes prayer can be challenging depending on where you are in life. You're a student, right? Maybe you're a student in college. You've got classes from 10 to 2, back to back. And Dhuhr's in there. You've got to get it in there somewhere. But it's hard sometimes. You know, you're running to a class, stop by the library, make so happen, try to make it to your other class. That's if you have that sense of connection to your prayer. And if you don't have that sense of connection to your prayer, it can make it challenging, where maybe you're going through your 5 prayers, but there's no khushu. Yeah, you're trying to find that khushu. One thing that I've found valuable is finding moments to remember Allah throughout the day, even outside of the 5 prayers. The 5 prayers are like your daily meetings with Allah, right? Like maybe you set up a 30-minute session to work with a tutor. Yeah. to improve in one area of life. Your 5 daily prayers are like your 5-minute daily meetings with Allah that help reinvigorate your soul. But throughout, in between meeting, if you schedule a 30-minute meeting with your tutor, you're going to study that material before you go back to see your tutor again. Similarly, if you're praying Allah 5 times a day, remembering Allah throughout the day, between those periods, helps increase that sense of connection. And it can be little things. Not every prayer has to be a formal prayer. It can be a personal prayer you're making to Allah. It can be remembering Allah's attributes. It can be one dua that really touches your heart. It's that daily, it's finding 1, 2, 3 ways of remembering Allah that you can practice on a daily basis to increase that sense of connectedness.
And so one of the things that we were, in our conversation, we were talking about how, so the prayer connects us, and the opposite of prayer is to disconnect. Right? And so the prayer causes us to tap into our natural created leadership and our natural mercy, and disconnecting from that can make us intolerant, inflexible. We don't want to take sure. We think we know. And that can lead us into making bad decisions and also maybe reaping bad circumstances on people that we actually intend good for. So going into the next ayah, where we talked about ayah 19 and 32, and which is interesting here, and I'm going to let you kind of get into this, but now is specifically referring to Isa's relationship with his mother, right? And Allah is alluding to that kindness. And so we talk about oftentimes, right? That's why a lot of our topics and our titles come from scriptures. It seems elaborate and long, but it's saying, reverence the wounds that bore you, right? But it's really not something that we came up with. It's really what our Creator is saying. It's intelligent. It's intelligent to recognize somebody took care of you when you did not have the ability to take care of yourself. You were not only could you not take care of yourself, not only could you not feed yourself, but the critical one, you couldn't protect yourself. Right? Like we were just talking about our security. We had somebody out here doing that and helping us in here, right? Be safe, right? And so this particular ayah is speaking to that. So going into this ayah 32, what are your thoughts on that? On ayah 32.
In ayah 32. So ayah 32, Jesus says, Allah made me dutiful to my mother. He's not made me a wretched tyrant. Right? In this ayah, Allah's showing us that it's essential to show honor, kindness, mercy to our places of origin. In this context, it's Isa's mother, but that can be your parents, your family, your elders, your community. Allah blesses us to come into the world with these supports in our life, and we need to honor Allah's gifts to us by showing them mercy, by showing them compassion, by, as we grow up and step into a role of servant leadership, asking ourselves, how can we continue to serve our places of origin? And we can extend this metaphorically to say, as humans, how do we continue to serve humankind? How do we continue to serve our environment? Allah's given us this beautiful home, the earth as a temporary home. How can we continue to show that we value the blessings that Allah's given us through the way that we treat them?
Yes. Now, I wanted to, because drill down here. So he says here, this last part, because we highlighted it in the ayah 31, just in the Arabic a little bit, where was al-Lani. Then he goes on and says what he doesn't make him, right? He made him a blessing, right? And then in this particular ayah, the next ayah, he's contrasting, meaning Allah made me this, he didn't make me that. So again, right? So Isa talking as a baby is speaking to what is the natural nature of the human being. So the natural nature of the human being is actually to be kind, considerate, a blessing, and a mercy. What's unnatural for the human being is to be overbearing. Jabbaran Shakiyya. 2 words. Jabbaran Shakiyya. One of them is one who looks to dominate. And I'm speaking on all levels here. So that's not natural. You have to be taught that. That has to be implanted in you. You don't come into the world looking like that. So it's natural to not want to be overbearing to someone. It's natural to be merciful. And sometimes in our society, we lose the grip on what's natural and what's not, right? And so we become these things, so we have to understand what is natural and what is not. And here this baby is speaking to how we really come from our Creator and what is the best way forward. And also, if we're looking to become this leadership, how can we get back to that? So my question to you is, what do you think is important about leadership, that you're kind to your parents? How does that affect good leadership?
That's a good question.
Well, I hope to ask good questions.
Well, your parents are very much like the first leaders that you interact with in your life.
Okay.
Before you meet teachers
Yes.
at school,
Yes.
before you meet maybe like your Sunday school teacher, your imam at the masjid,
Yes.
your parents are the leaders of your family. They're instilling you with those values,
Yes.
helping you to grow into a wholesome, well-rounded person.
Yes.
And as we grow into young adults and servant leaders, we then can ask, how do we serve those who led us in the past? And that starts with the parents.
Excellent. And so what do you say now to the fact that here we have Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that demonstrated these qualities, but he never met his father at all and only had his mother around until he was about 8 years old. So how does that speak to that particular natural disposition, in that he didn't have his parents throughout his teenage and young adult years?
That lets us know similarly to how in this ayah, Isa is an infant,
Yes.
a baby, and he's demonstrating these qualities and speaking to these qualities. That lets us know that these qualities are very much inherent in who we are.
Yes.
And if we're not in an environment that's working to cultivate the opposite in us, we, inshallah, should grow and flourish demonstrating these qualities.
Last question on parents, and then we'll go to the ayat and close, the last ayat and close. This is, you're speaking to a pivotal point. What if a person says, well, my parents aren't good parents?
If your parents aren't good parents, I think that the first source of, if your parents aren't good parents,
Yes.
maybe your parents don't model those humanitarian or Islamic values.
Right.
You can always look to Allah's guidance. And since Allah is our creator,
Yes.
Allah created us with this nature. He created us with the guidance that we need to grow while honoring this nature.
Excellent.
And in the stories of the prophets and the examples that he gives us, he shows us how to honor our nature through our behavior,
Yes.
and how to maintain good ties with our family, even if they aren't honoring the natural disposition that Allah's given us.
Allahu
So it's
Akbar.
not okay to be mean or neglect our parents, even if they're not necessarily, in our mind, good parents.
Correct.
Excellent.
Allah has given us, in the example of the Prophet, and in the Qur'an, Allah has given us guidelines, Islamic adab,
Yes.
good manners.
Right.
And they tell us how to conduct our lives in a way that will allow us to honor that natural disposition
Yes.
and please Allah. To be rude to our parents, to disrespect our parents, to treat them harshly, that goes against our natural disposition.
Yes.
Specifically, Allah stresses the importance of treating your parents with kindness,
Yes.
showing your parents respect. So since He puts so much stress on this, the importance of it lets us know that in showing harshness to our parents, we'd also be hurting ourselves in the process. We'd be drawing ourselves away from that natural disposition. So we can look to Allah's teachings on Islamic adab, and we can look to the examples of the prophets who had family members who didn't uphold Islamic practices.
Yes.
To find insight on how to treat them with mercy and respect while still honoring the guidance of Allah in our conduct.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And there's much to say here, but for the sake of the time we're going to pull up here, I'll just ask a final question, and then we'll yield to our next speaker today. Because this is a big deal that they're looking to separate us from our good community life, family life, and that is going into the families and create factions and fractions within the homes. And this is a pivotal subject matter. That's why we like to have these types of taleem, so we can have questions and answers. So also we can maybe fix some of the disconnect that we may have with our relationships so that we can have healthier leadership in the future. So my final question would be...
May I add something?
Yes, ma'am.
In this surah, there's the story of Prophet Abraham in a moment of conflict with his father.
Yes.
And in this moment, Abraham comes to his father. He says, I found the truth about Allah. I want to share this with you. I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me. I want to share the truth with you. And his father is angry at him. He threatens him. He says, get away from me, lest I cause you harm. And Abraham doesn't approach his father with harshness. He doesn't respond back angrily. He says, peace be upon you, and leaves his father in a merciful way, and essentially says, I'm going to follow Allah, and I'm going to treat you well. And that I would encourage anyone who wants to see an example of how to demonstrate respect for parents, even when they're not following an Islamic example, by looking at that exchange in the surah between Abraham and his father.
The final question is, wrap your goals up. You wanted to just mention your thoughts on Ayah 33, and after that, you just close up on your final thoughts on leadership and mercy and how they connect together.
Definitely. So Ayah 33 and my final thoughts on leadership and mercy, they're very close. So for Ayah 33, Isa stresses at the end of the statement, peace be upon me the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I'll be raised back to life. This really lets us know that when we choose the path of mercy, we're choosing peace for ourselves. When we choose to treat others with mercy, and we choose internal peace for ourselves. And when we choose mercy with the intention of pleasing Allah, Allah promises that we'll find peace on our path in this life. And I think that's beautiful, especially since Islam is the religion of peace. So yeah, as a final thought, as we practice mercy and leadership with the intention of pleasing Allah, I think it's beautiful just to know that we're really modeling that Islamic ideal
Yes.
by showing up as servant leaders, by stressing mercy in everything that we do, and knowing that Allah's mercy surrounds us as we set out to treat His creation with mercy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful job. Like I said, we're just trying to create an atmosphere where we can have conversations about the Quran so that we can maybe pique the interest so that people can go in a little bit more and say, I read that, I didn't see it like that, and maybe encourage them to study a little bit more, and study a little more, may Allah bless them to get a stronger connection with their Lord Creator. So we'll pull up here, and we'll let our MC come back up and bring our last speaker up. Fatimah, thank you for one presentation.
Takbir. Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah, that was amazing. Thank you again for the opening remarks from our brother Imam Omar Shakir and the conversation on leadership and mercy from Sister Fatimah and Imam Asim. I'd like to bring up our next speaker who will give us our closing remarks. I had the pleasure of meeting this young brother yesterday, and he is an amazing individual. So I'd like to bring up Imam Abdul, Latif, Oyegbefun from San Antonio, from Masjid Bilal Ibn Rabah.
Takbir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, I would just say I'm not an imam, but I'm your brother. I really enjoyed this podcast, this talk about leadership and what it really entails to be a leader. It's not just about what power you have, what authority you have, what money you have, but what you actually do with it. And one of the best things that as human beings that we can do with this blessing that we've been given us, the authority that we've been given to us, is to use it to serve others. So in my opinion, servant leadership is the best type of leadership. It's, in my opinion, at least the only type of leadership that would actually lead to that which is good in society. I want to kind of make this a bit concrete. Right now, there's over 20,000 Palestinians that have been killed in bombings in Israel. They bomb schools, nurses, homes, everything. And the world is silent. We have world leaders, we have people that we have elected into specific offices that can stop this. We have people that we have honored and idolized, musicians, artists, all these people that have been given lots of wealth and platform that can be leaders and stand up to the injustice that is being committed against them. But we see they have been given authority, been given power, they've been given blessings from Allah, but they are not true leaders. They are not servant leaders. They don't serve society. They don't serve the world. They don't serve the people. And so I want to. So that's I guess a world view of how leadership is actually very important. This idea of servant leadership. But if you want to change the world, we have to start with changing ourselves. It always starts with ourselves. And so I encourage us to be servant leaders within our own family, within our own society, and try and do our best to serve others. As Sister Fatimah said, with regards to the different aspects of society that we can actually be servant leaders, be respectful to your mom, be respectful to your dad, be respectful to the people in your community. Always be out there to serve them, and inshallah, that wanting to serve, that willing to serve, is going to be a benefit. It's going to be a benefit to society, and Allah, inshallah, may even choose you to be a leader in society. Not everybody's given authority, certain authority, or at least everybody's given authority. There are various amounts of authority that people are being given to, but you have authority. How you use that authority with mercy and not to be oppressive is what makes you a leader, what makes you a servant leader, what makes you a leader that Allah will be pleased with. So I encourage all of us to try and become leaders become leaders in our own small way within our society. And if we have a society, if we have a society that's full of servant leaders, Allah says that He would choose a leader of a people. He would choose a leader of a people from that people. He's not going to bring someone else to come lead those people. So if everybody's a servant leader, and everybody's serving others, then that's what the leader will do. And so when there's oppression and injustice or any type of problem, you can count on the servant leader to take care of us. Inshallah.
Takbir.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Takbir.
I want to thank everyone who was able to make it out today. Again, as I opened, this is the second leg of our Unity Collaborative with our brothers and sisters in San Antonio at Masjid Bilal Ibn Rabah. Again, we want to thank you all that were able to come out, especially warm thanks from Austin Dawah Center, and thank everyone. Bye.
Questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Questions?
Yes, pardon. So I guess we'll open it up for any questions from the Q&A, right, from any of our speakers.
Just raise your hand. I can hand you the mic if you have a question. You have a question? 1 second.
It's not so. I can speak loud enough.
Okay.
It's not so much a question I have. Is that Allah blessed me to get a little nugget again from hearing what's being shared, And for me, I think that's the key that gets me down the road, And thank you, Sister Fatimah, for sharing what you did and the way you did it. As you were speaking, and the prophet Jesus said that Allah protects him from being wretched, and what he's saying to me is Allah takes that burden off of you. I mean, the wretched mean that you're depressed, you unhappy person, and I'm just grateful. Though I know a few, but the goodies are good, And I thank you, Brother Imam and Imam Shakir and his family. Brother Imam, thanks for what you shared. And it's a great day to be a Muslim. Right here in these United States.
Allahu Akbar.
Because, I come out of the Nation of Islam, where I had a captain and a lieutenant,
That's right.
And being blessed to transition, because there are many brothers and sisters that could not do that. And Allah favor us over everything and every other creature He created. I was talking about my children. I said, what makes you different from the monkey? That. I said, Allah created a soul, a neph for the human being. He only created that for the human being. And He said He created one neph. Which means that we are all connected.
Oh.
I mean, I could go on, but I'm going to let it go.
Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah. Any additional questions? Questions or comments?
I would say that as Muslims we are like the best in the best of people, essentially. We are the best society, we are the best community, and although you may not feel like it, although your boss may be let's say a non-Muslim, and you may be an employee and you may be the Muslim, you are a leader. You are a leader to all those around you. So as Muslims, we have this responsibility. We are khalifas on earth. We have the responsibility to be leaders and to be leaders in all aspects of our lives. So I encourage everyone. This is a responsibility that Allah has tasked us with. You don't have an option. You don't have a choice. So may Allah make it easy for us to be leaders in society, and Allah have mercy on us.
Ameen.
Mashallah, mashallah. Any additional questions? Right, so
Well, what I'll just add,
yes.
we want to invite you to continue what you experienced here today and what you learned today. about mercy, relationships to parents, etc., read Surah Al-Luqman in the Qur'an, the 31st surah, and you will see the relationship between the father and the son and the advice that was imparted, but you'll also see the point that our sister made, that we are to obey our parents, be kind to our parents. Now, if they try to get you to worship something that's not Allah, disobey them, but keep kind company with them. Yes. I'll leave it right there. Chapter 31 in the Qur'an.
Very, very fitting. Very, very fitting closing. Thank you very much, Brother Man. So we look forward to some additional collaboratives with our brothers and sisters in San Antonio. I want to thank you all again for coming out tonight, this afternoon. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.